这个话题我们也先聊到这里，接下来把目光转到中国国内。在中国啊，今天有一个大新闻啊，这个大新闻啊是一名重要官员的被查，这个人呢不是别人，就是温家宝之前的秘书田学斌。那田学斌被查，是不是意味着习近平要查温家宝了呢？这是2026年据称是首虎落马，这也是一个中管干部的落马。我们先来关注一下这个田学斌啊究竟是何人？1月5日啊，根据中纪委国监委的通报啊，水利部原党组成员、副部长田学斌涉嫌严重违纪违法，正在接受审查调查。案情我们也不知道啊，只能知道田学斌被查了。那是田学斌的身份，那非常的敏感，因为这个田学斌啊，他今年62岁，年轻时学机械啊，毕业后啊去了水泵厂干过1年，真正的转折来到80年代中期。进入仕途，又去党校读研，一路进了北京的中央机关。从1992年到2008年，他在中办、国办担任秘书，整整16年。这个岗位啊，说白了，就是在权力中枢贴身写材料啊，跑协调，紧盯项目落实的人。那外界我们都把这种秘书呢叫做大秘。而田学斌这段经历之所以会被反复提及，就是因为那个年代国办系统的秘书很多时候都和温家宝的工作体系有交集，所以啊，我们看到过去这10几个小时，田学斌被查啊，往往你能看到这样的标题：田学斌是温家宝的大秘书。自然啊，我们今天要聊一聊田学斌。田学斌的仕途非常的典型，他在2008年转到国务院的研究室，当年就升任副主任。在2015年去了水利部当副部长，还兼职过直属机关党委书记。但是啊，他到2023年12月28日才到龄卸任。在卸任之后呢，在很多公开活动上露面，以政协委员身份谈过农村供水立法。写文章讲过3农水利，听起来呢像是已经安全落地，但是谁也没想到，到了2026年，那他就成为了被查的这个中管干部中的一员。那这个田学斌到底因何被查啊？他和温家宝之间的联系呢又有多少？这得请何斌先生给大家做一个分析和梳理。
昨天在做顶顶今日事的这个节目中间啊，就突然跳出来田学斌被查，那上面当然写的是水利部原副部长啊什么玩意儿，哎，我当时就跟我的观众就说，哎，这不是这个温家宝的秘书嘛，大秘书嘛，但是我说这个也不重要了。对吧？一个副部长，现在我们有什么值得讨论的呢？那么多上将，那么多的重要的官员都被查了，但是实际上呢，还是有讨论的价值的所以没想到小杨今天把它做成了其中的一个题目。温家宝当这个办公厅主任、中央书记处书记，包括他担任的其他一些什么副总理啊、总理啊这些职务期间是有很多个秘书的。但是其中最重要的2个秘书呢，这个一个叫邱小雄一个呢叫田学斌，因为这2个人后来都是给了一个副部长这个邱小雄是给了税务局总局的副局长，田学斌是给了一个国务研究室副主任，然后是水利部的副部长。因为我的朋友跟这个邱小雄是同学，他们是同班同学，北大经济系的。所以当时对这个温家宝的这个情况还有所了解，在同学中间也可以聊一聊。邱小雄这个人是广西人，人也很不错所以那个时候的同学的关系跟今天不大一样在80年代70年代、90年代的这些同学的友谊还是比较深的，可以说彼此之间的照顾也是比较多的。那邱小雄对同学就是不错。所以那些同学当时就我跟这个他的同学可以说很熟他们几个同学，所以讲过一些这种邱小雄的这种情况。但是邱小雄到了后来很糟糕，就是说身体出了问题，在应该是10几年以前就去世了，10几年以前。 而在之前身体的原因再加上要换不能老是一个人当大秘书，要换一换，所以邱小熊就是这个就去了税务总局，然后不久就好像退下来是怎么样就去世了。很可惜的是一个很不错的人因为他帮过他的一些同学，所以同学说这个有的人跑到中南海就根本就是不理你了，他也是有原因的，因为他的保密性很强，对吧？不愿意去帮助别人而且是扯麻烦那么但是呢，这个秘书是这样出事的原因很简单，很多首长不方便干的事情都是秘书在干。一方面是帮助首长干脏事，第二方面呢，利用这个组长这个首长的这个名义或者他的权利那么偷偷摸摸干自己的私活，这两种情况都有。但是在这个其他人看起来，首长的秘书就是二号首长，有时候的权利实际的操作的权利比这个首长还重。那现在田学斌被抓被查，那这个事情当然是给温家宝一个响亮的耳光原因就是呢，温家宝是一个温文儒雅的人我的很多朋友都特别喜欢这个温家宝而且呢，他是讲普世价值的人他到处都讲普世价值观，对吧？讲中国什么什么东西，反对文革什么这样的，尤其是在对付这个薄熙来的事情上面，他非常明确的讲中国不要回到文革时代中国要进行普世价值观什么玩意儿的。其实我呢也是有过一段时间欣赏这个温家宝的，也并不是说一开始就批评温家宝，但是我后来觉得温家宝这个人的问题就在什么地方呢？就是说他的这个文革的这种论调就有一点是故弄玄虚，就是因为今天你但凡有一点这个认知的能力的人，都不会轻而易举会做出一个判断说中国会回到文革时代那是根本没有社会基础。有人说有的人是红卫兵表现，或者是有人还上街，那个时候只指文革的一个非常表面的一个支离破碎的一个现象而已。真正的一个文革，它有强烈的社会基础，它有强烈的政治基础，而且有强烈的这个中央的这个指导的这个力量。你不能说有几个人比较喜欢造反乱来，对不对？或者喊一下组的口号，或者社会存在着很多的不公中国出现了某一些现象就跟文革套起来有一点基本认知能力的人都认为这个纯属是夸大其词，纯粹是把一个时代把一个民众不当一回事。你说文革吧，是老百姓的狂欢，不仅是中央政府的一个引导，毛泽东的一个引导，它是一种集体的狂欢。那个集体的狂欢，它也不完全发生在中国。我在巴尔干的时候就发现，哎呀，当地的老百姓有一些出来，他都已经民主化了。有一些还打动一些什么左派领袖的画面在街上游行，那个时候他有一定的这个组成的这样一个思潮的一个历史的背景。那今天无论是左和右，对吧？你要搞一场颠覆性的根本性的革命，在很多的国家其实都很困难。你说美国现在已经非常厉害了吧？但是实际上总统要做起事情起来，还是受到了很多的牵制。存在的根本性的彻底性的这种极左和极右，即使在任何国家现在都不那么容易了，都不那么容易了，包括中国。所以我觉得当时候的温家宝温家宝总理那番讲话得到很多人的支持鼓掌，因为很多人担忧中国回到文革。我觉得这个是一个真的是他身为一个总理那么去讲是很不得体的，因为情况没那么糟糕中国也不可能回到文革。第二个就是他喜欢讲普世价值，那普世这个东西呢，是有一定的文明进步性民主自由和人权，你没有几个人站出来说我反对人权，对吧？我反对自由，我反对这个民主，那没有这样的傻瓜，对不对？没有这样的傻瓜。但是呢，你作为一个学术界，作为一个政治界，你应该明白 在冷战之后的形成的这种民主的浪潮，从颜色革命也好到西方真正之前的在冷战中间取得的这场胜利，你把它简化成为一个民主的胜利，或者简化成为一个民主了、自由了、人权了，很多问题好像是得到了一个安全的保障，得到了一个普适性的一个认可，这个是太浅薄了，太浅薄了。事实上，民主在过去几十年中间遇到了很大的挑战。这个挑战并不是说民主不好，而是说呢，民主需要修正，民主需要提升，也不能一个普世价值观，一个宪政民主，对吧？就把这个事情好像就可以大而化之，很容易啊。中国人有一些人是比较喜欢理论的因为老毛掌握权力就喜欢搞哲学，玩哲学这一套，所以很多的这个学者、思想者也会陷入到这个里面来。但是实际上，中国真正的原创的这个哲学思想、政治思想是非常非常少的，或者是几乎是没有的。80年以来，像我们这一代人，或者是比我们年纪大一点这一代人，那主要是受西方的这个影响。文革之后，我们开始看的这些小说本看的这些一本性书之后很快就进入了西方的学术的这个思考范围。我记得那个时候我都已经很小了，那我的那些大哥大姐们，那在一起看的书基本都是少儿艺术馆、三联书店，对吧？那种西方学术的这个议程，就是说西方重要的政治学、经济学，对吧？这个哲学尤其经济学，那大家基本上到今天为止。你要跟一些搞经济的人争论，大家动不动跟你讲无形的手，好像无形的手就是整个经济的一个圣经一样的东西亚洲思密的东西。那实际上这个在学术来讲是很幼稚的。现在的经济哪里还是简单的无形的之手早就进入了有形的之手。国家没有一定的计划经济能力，国家的发展战略，或者说国家没有对反垄断、对这个很多的事情进行了这个监管，那如果纯粹按照自由的话，那就完了。这个世界可能就由马斯克同学来控制了，对不对？因为他钱很多，他可以控制更多的市场，更多的这个资金，那才是市场，那其实才是真正的噩梦了，对不对？所以西方出现了这个反垄断。出现了这个监管，尤其是欧洲比较泥的，主要的一个原因就是经济需要有一个有形的这个这样一个监管。但是这个温家宝，他就是迎合这个文化人或者是社会阶层的这样一个普世价值的这么一个心理要求。那你作为总理，你不能这么浅薄对不对？而且你明明共产党也不会搞这一套。事实上，后来也证明共产党没有搞这一套。今天的中国走的一条道路，既不是毛泽东式的，也不是马克思式的、斯大林式的，也不是西方式的。因为普世价值在很大的程度上就是西式价值嘛，对不对？那温家宝这个人，从这2点我就开始对他有一点觉得，这个人表面上讲的是迎合文化人的一套，但是实际上是非常的虚张声势，而且是产生很大的误导性的作用。你作为一个政治家，作为一个总理，很多的事情的思考应该更加就是说，不要说严谨吧，你至少不要利用这个东西来煽动什么事情。那你现在看看西方媒体，现在还讲普世价值观吗？对吧？因为这是一个超级意识形态，它会把很多东西都装在一起。就像我们现在讨论很多问题一样的，什么民主独裁这些东西，现在不是民主和独裁的问题，是一个国家的治理的能力，老百姓的生活的品质能改善到什么程度？如果你改善的好，老百姓这点都认可你；你改善的不好，你什么体制也没用实际上，大部分的体制现在是民主体制那南美这些国家就是民主国家委内瑞拉现在都叫这个马杜罗是独裁者。其实它是一个民主出了问题的一个反应对吧？你的民主政权让查韦斯上台，查韦斯上台又交班给这个马杜罗，但是这些东西都是经过民主的程序的。但是为什么民主的程序没有像你们讲的那样三权分立，对吧？现在民主 这个好像权力就受到制约，实际上是没有受到制约嘛。假如马杜罗乱来的话，马杜罗盗窃这个选举的话，这是民主的问题，它不是专制的问题。结果大家反而呢也讲的是个民主的问题啊，所以这些事情即使在学术界讨论了已经很多年了，很普遍。我讲的这些东西也不是说石破天惊跟大家讲一讲，只是说在大众话题来讲，对这个事情理顺是很不清楚的。那后来的这个温家宝被《纽约时报》跟还有好几个福克斯哪几个媒体，对吧？除了《纽约时报》，好几个媒体开始揭露温家宝的问题。即使等揭露的问题显示出来，温家宝这个人他的家族腐败是非常严重的，腐败那种严重的程度足以中央立案，足以把温家宝进行起诉。你比如说他跟保险公司的事情，那正好是他在主导这个中国的相关政策的调整，对吧？那个时候，那你就会上直接的利益的冲突。假如这个是我刚才讲的是真的话，对吧？准确的话，那有这么一个问题，对吧？但是呢，就是中国政府这个习近平这些年的这个反腐败他多的是低级别的人，当然也不是说小蚂蚁但是很多都是副部长副省长政协副主席人大副主任，对吧？所以我们在节目中间一再的讲，希望是抓一些政治局委员的人。那这一点呢，不一定是我们的作用了，我们未必有那么大的作用那么但是确实抓到了政治局。现在先是干掉了何卫东，现在又干掉这个马兴玉现在谁都知道马兴玉声援没有公布，但是他已经是这个被拉掉了政治局委员的这样一个现实的状况是存在的。未来受不受审判我们还不知道，但是呢，我还是在讲应该查到政治局常委，因为政治局常委这是中国的真正的最高领导层，正国级，而且这么多正国级，这些人在过程中间有几个没有干一些污浊的事情呢？对不对？所以习近平应该查一查常委。那现在温家宝年纪这么大了，很多常委年纪老了，习近平可能有仁慈之心呢，不忍他们这么大的年纪了。但是呢，你可以把他不送到监狱去，对不对？但是你可以对他进行调查处理这监狱我就算了吧，对吧？80岁的年纪了不好意思嘛，对不对？应该有人道主义嘛。但是现在似乎呢有这种表现，开始把温家宝的大秘书给抓了。那什么叫大秘书那就是几十年来温家宝的大大小小的事情的掌握的人，那就是田学斌了，对不对？除了邱小雄就是田学斌所以抓田学斌就是给温家宝一个响亮的耳光，就是给他一个警告。是不是直接的调查这个温家宝我不知道，这个我也没有这方面的这个内部消息，但是很明显是针对温家宝的温家宝确实涉嫌严重的问题在政治上有问题，在这个经济上有问题这是非常明显的。如果你这么明显的人都不查，那你还去查谁呀？对不对？所以我觉得田学斌这个事情呢，是有一定程度的这个针对温家宝的味道这个但是也只是我的一个分析
好，感谢和平先生的点评以及补充今天的话题我们都跟大家呢聊完了我们把目光移到中国，因为中国有一件大事正在发生，这个大事就是高市早苗要面临极限压力测试了。那这是来自于中国商务部的一个最新的声明中国商务部是一纸通告，那相当于是对日本拉了一个全面禁运清单。中国商务部的声明就说从现在开始，就从1月6日开始所有对日本具有军事用途的两用物项一律不准出口，而且不仅是明确给军方使用，那只要最终用途可能增强日本军事能力也算违规，而且是立即生效。 啊。有人觉得这可能是稀土啊，但是这不只是稀土，不只是稀土。中国的这个两用物项的清单呢非常的长，那根据媒体披露出来，有800到1100多项不等。那么里面包括什么呢？包括化学品，包括电子元件，包括传感器，包括航运设备，包括航空航天相关技术。说白了就是凡是高端制造啊，你都可以把这些内容往军民两用这个物项上去靠。那消息出来，日本的股市首先做出了反应，日经225期货应声大跌1%啊，不算崩盘啊，但是非常明显，这显然是给这件事情呢就是显示出了中国商务部的这个声明的分量。日本官方的反应，目前没有特别的明确。贸易和经济安全部门啊，只说正在评估就是可能日本自己也不知道啊，这一刀啊会砍到什么要害的部位啊，可能是这一刀会砍到很多要害的部位。因为理论上就算是民用啊，只要你能说它可以增强军力，那也可能被卡。我们的观众说了，小苏打可能都不能出口，更别提什么大量无机化学产品了，那这都不行。那现在日本对中国的稀土依赖度保守估算也有60%到70%。早在16年前，2010年中日闹翻，其实中国一度对日本停止了稀土的出口，当时日本制造业直接被打懵了，这个阴影到现在也没散去。自那之后日本其实就可以说是在全世界率先开始布局要摆脱这个中国稀土的依赖。那这一次中国商务部的2026年第1号公告可以说是对日本16年磨一剑的一次大考。那日本这一次对中国脱钩的筹备到底筹备如何会在未来的3个月显示出来。这是今天的一个大新闻。我看很多行业很多媒体都在讨论这个事情，因为这个清单实在是太长，因为这相当于是一个非常广泛的禁运而且它打击的是直接源头打击如果你考虑什么转口贸易也是会被影响到的。比如说你想先把这个东西运到第3国，然后再运到日本也不行这个是一个源头打击，而且这个是一个非常狠的一招，这是非常狠的一招。这个清单我们可以来聊一聊。有人说大米饭也能增加军队士气这个日本也挺奇怪的。日本他宁可买这个日本自产的贵到没边的米饭，他好像对中国的米饭也没有那么大的兴趣。这不是我说的这不是我说的。这个清单非常的长，不知道何冰先生有没有关注到今天的这个大新闻？
但今天有网友这个一早就发了这个消息给我来做参考非常感谢一些网友，因为我每一天虽然看很多东西但实际上经常会漏掉一些东西，尤其是对一些最新发生的事情呢，未必那么敏感，或者是未必那么掌握而且今天一早上6多聊天区网友也在聊这个问题，但我来讲呢可以说不是怎么吃惊，因为这个天上掉下一个高妹妹这就是我对这个高市首相这一次的这个评论。主要的问题就是中国和日本的问题一直没有理清楚一直没有理清楚。第一个是历史的清理怎么去看待中国和日本之间的这些历史的纠葛，尤其是日本对中国造成的长期的伤害，由于美国出于冷战意识形态的这个需求，放过了这个日本，然后让中国和亚洲被侵略的这些国家没有得到应有的赔偿，也没有得到正常的这个正义，也使日本呢没有对这个自己所犯下的罪行呢进行一个正当的反省，这是首先的一个基本的常识。正是因为在这样一种背景之下，中日之间始终就是一种扭曲的关系。它跟德国的情况不一样，德国现在和法国历史所产生的这种 这种痛苦的记忆啊就减弱了很多，是因为德国的人民、德国的这个精英阶层、德国的政府有非常深刻的反省。日本始终没有完成这个历史应该有的一个反检，才能让历史啊，就是没有去这个叫什么没有办法完成这么一个交代。所以这个问题啊，一旦有新的事情冲击起来，这个事情就成为一个大的背景。而这个背景让日本在道义上陷入到一个被动的局面。现在在全世界任何一个场景上，把当年日本对中国所造成的伤害一展示出来，我相信你有一点点人性的人，你都没办法理解这个世界上怎么会有日本这种侵华的这样一种残暴的行为。虽然有一些中国人为日本进行辩护对吧？这个也没什么这都是改变不了这个历史的基本的这个事实。所以历史的问题就变成了今天的一个大的这个背景一个大的一个起点。第二点就是呢，日本是个中型强国，日本现在已经呢衰落成为一个这个中型强国，已经不是一个超级大国。很多人很喜欢日本，我也喜欢日本日本人的平和，日本人的守信用日本人的社会的管理的还有这个秩序，这个没有问题。但是问题就在于日本在这个生活和管理之外，日本有一些基本的问题没有解决。明治维新以来，对整个社会的这个改造没有完成，没有走向这个现代化的过程。所以美国日本这样一个工业很厉害的国家，它的很多的管理的方式都是很过时的，很僵化的。一些在日本大公司的朋友跟我讲，他说你无法想象日本的公司的僵化的程度，日本的这个政府也是这个样子，甚至更严重。日本的精英阶层也有这个毛病，这就造成他们在看待世界的时候有时候技术性的东西看得很多，宏观的东西看得很弱缺乏一些真正的这个全面性的一种觉醒。这个是一个日本现在要摆脱现在困难的一个很大的一个障碍。其中呢，这种思维的方式影响得到他们对世界的认识，尤其是对中国的认识。很多的在中国生活的日本人或者说某一些研究中国的这个日本人，他们对中国的潜力和能量缺乏正确的评估，以至于支持或者推动了高市这一次的这个冒险行为。那我一直以来是提醒全世界的中小国家，现在的这个时代已经进入了三地治天下的时代。你去向俄罗斯或者向美国或者中国这种国家去挑战，你几乎就是在找死。因为这些国家，这三个国家的这个各自的力量他们正好在寻找这个对手去磨练一下自己的这个能量。因为他们要显示出新的霸权出来，他们要显示出新的这个力量出来。那俄罗斯去侵略乌克兰，它不是一时的情绪启动，更不是普京个人的一个个人的一个表现，那是俄罗斯的整体经营集团的一个战略，一个行为，是对冷战这个受到的羞辱，对吧？受到的冷落受到的边缘和不断的要承受的危机的一次反应。所以他对乌克兰是下定了决心，而西方的这些力量基本上是坚持不下去的。他们也没有对俄罗斯的军力进行过严肃的评估，对俄罗斯的战略政策进行过严肃的评估，对吧？34年以前战争一开始，我当时的这个评论，当时的这个分析，很多的观众他没办法理解，因为他就是跟着这个媒体跑， 他没有去仔细去思考过这个问题，仔细去分析过这个问题。这场战争，乌克兰只能是越早谈判对他越有利，而不是越去打这场战争得到所谓的正义，那个纯属是幻想，纯属是幻想。今天的乌克兰已经就是一个根本不可改变的被肢解，只是说肢解的多少程度而已。只是说现在乌东地区已经被俄罗斯占领，而这个乌西地区开始被西方哪一些国家肢解而已，或者说波兰它在里面得到什么利益，美国或者是这个得到什么利益，当然西欧得到利益的可能性比较小，西欧这些小国啊，中小国家也是一个被玩弄的棋子，什么德国啊、法国啊、英国啊，当然英国是个搅屎棍啊，他就是希望天下大乱，他才有这个好日子过，尤其是欧洲大乱，这是他的一个习惯性的一个罪恶心态，可以说不是丑陋心态，英国几乎可以说这是个罪恶心态，因为他根本不把欧洲人的命当成命啊。所以这一点很多人根本就没有脑子去分析这些东西所以人云亦云的更多瞎喊瞎讲。那今天他们无话可说，今天他们不知道躲在哪个角落里面去反省一下自己，这样的人非常少更多技术的错误技术的认知，他们会继续混下去。对待今天的中国也是这个样子，他们还在那幻想，对吧？中国是不是又是一个甲午战争时代？还在那幻想中国会被这个第一岛链给套住第一岛链对于中国来讲已经不是个根本性的障碍，根本性的障碍是中国要在经过第一岛链的时候，把你那些对我形成第一岛链的国家形成打击。那这个时候高市本身的这个背后的背景，它就有很多的军事行为，这些军事行为中国早些年它也没办法发作，因为美国太强大了，中国太弱了。另外一个呢，他没有找到一个合适的时机，没有想到天下掉下一个高倍美，就像中共要对付台湾采取强势行动，掉下了一个佩洛西议长是几乎是一致的，对吧？现在美国自己的国家安全顾问都承认了这一点，对吧？如果没有这个佩洛西，你觉得中共找到什么理由去封锁台湾？当然，现在封锁台湾无所顾忌，甚至实际上他就是封锁了台湾，对吧？美国你在哪里？佩洛西议长他现在可能忙他的股票，对吧？已经忘记了他造成巨大伤害的台湾，这就是可耻的政客，或者叫无耻的政客。欧洲就有很多这样的政客，美国也有。那高市呢？他是叫自己残害。他倒是没有能够像这个岸田文雄和拜登这样去扯上尹锡悦，现在尹锡悦现在也扯不上了，他老人家是不是会判终身监禁或者死罪我不知道，我不知道这个韩国有没有死罪啊？虽然我是一个算半个反死罪的人，但是我觉得尹锡悦的罪就已经到了一种极刑的地步了。就是说，就是已经没办法以任何的这个罪行能够比死刑更有力的对他的一个打击，因为哪里有这样的一个疯子，至于自己制造一场政变，把一个国家陷入到一个极度危险的一个阵地，所以以至于走向这个所谓的这个监狱那几乎他在任上的时候，我就认定了。那我不知道高市未来是不是有这样的命运，我并不知道，因为我对日本的法律也不了解。但是高市这一次泥泞的后果，他认为通过一个缓和的手段能够得以解决，这个是太轻看今天的世界局势了。所以当时我就说，这个是非常非常严重的事情，这是1972年这个中日建交以来最严重的一个事情。不会通过一个军事演习就了结，也不会通过一个什么限制理由令就会解决，更不会通过一些言辞谴责一下就会解决。 这个事情，日本它不进行根本性的这种妥协让步，它不是让步，就是要回到某一些中共认为的某一些位置上，这个事情根本了解不了。那日本就开始做出选择，对于他来讲，最佳的方式是把美国拖下水。所以呢，因为这是美国支持他搞的，对不对？重返亚洲战略啊，这个美日韩三联盟是美国为主的。现在美国的总统下去了，另外一个伙伴又进牢了，那日本呢怎么办？但是他没起到办法，所以他必须去找这个美国大爷。但是美国现在的问题就是他忙于他的西半球，而且他在亚洲的利益啊和这个中国的利益远远超过跟你日本的利益，因为你日本已经相当弱了，而不是相当强了。所以高市啊，即算是到美国的访问，美国也会给他一下安抚，对吧？这个没问题，美国也会说呢，你们继续挺住啊，我们在后面支持你，但是等于没说啊，因为呢这个台南部总统要跟中国进行大交易，所以我在最近几年啊，或者是最近1年以来，越来越明显跟大家讲，实际上最危险的国家不是大国，实际上最危险的国家是中型国家，小型国家反正就是这个没有力量，对吧？你胡说八道啊，那别人大国查你一下都不好意思查你，对不对？像菲律宾，他都不好意思查你，你太小了，太弱了。那最怕的就是中型国家，搞不太清楚状况，上不上下不下，以为自己还是个大国，然后去挑战大国。我没有仔细去看这个新的这个制裁，这些东西都是中国学美国的嘛，对吧？中国之所以今天变得比较强大，很重要的原因就是学习欧美的，对不对？并不是中国传统文化就产生出这么一个报复的，这么谁都常备之法，谁都这个报复。那学了美国的，那美国能够帮助日本是非常难以实质化的。难以实质的话，如果真正实质化了，就要你日本去当更大的炮灰。你实际上是抱美国的大腿的结果呢，不但拖不下日本啊，美国下海。如果美国真下海了，那抱歉，赶死在前面还是你日本。所以日本这个高市啊，响应美国来平衡中国的时代啊，其实他又算错了算盘，又算错了。因为美国的战略已经产生根本性的变化，那我觉得这个事情要解决只有一个套路，只有一条出路，就是中日之间直接谈，日本把话讲清楚，中国把要求讲清楚，双方之间直接的进行交易。你通过一个第三者来威胁这个中国啊，已经没有这个力量，已经没有这个力量。你不是说跟台南部总统讲一下，台南部总统当然可以答应你，对吧？他可能也跟习近平讲一讲，但是呢不会产生根本性的变化。根本性的变化就是日本和中国还是要进行直接的这个谈判，这两个国家没有任何必要真的是走向一个全面性的对抗。虽然历史造成中国巨大的伤害，但是这些事情中国很多人其实已经呢没有把今天的日本人当成过去的那些没有人性的，对吧？丧失人性的那些野兽般的日本侵略者，那是两码事，那已经是两码事。但是如果你要用军事来威胁中国，那倒不对不起，历史的记忆它就会回来。所以这是一个这个对于日本来讲，需要重新思考它的战略的问题，很痛苦，很痛苦。主要的问题是日本缺乏有脑子的这个政客，日本缺乏有脑子的这种分析家战略家搞不清楚这个世界是怎么回事。你以为习近平是个猪头，你以为习近平是个小学文化程度，你天天看这些破媒体，你测这的结果就是这么一个判断，对吧？不是说你不能骂习近平，你怎么骂习近平也没问题，对吧？美国的总统哪个国家总在骂，只是说你作为一个领导人，你应该明白骂是让你爽，但是呢不是真实的这个现实。 真实的现实是，习近平是一个非常稳定的、具有持续力量的，然后有步骤的来为他的国家或者为他自己的利益或者是价值来进行的这个人现在那些整天说骂习近平的人，没有想到其实习近平的出现是中国国力的一个必然反应，而不仅是简单的是习近平个人的问题，而且它会造成中国在未来相当一段时间根本不可能有政治改变的可能性，所以这是对于那些反习近平的人是一个悲但是这是什么叫历史的潮流？浩浩荡荡，这就是浩浩荡荡。在浩浩荡荡中间，不仅是你个人的问题，你像日本这种国家都面临着一个打击，而且我可以直接讲，这个打击不是终结篇，不是最后这个事情就了结了，这个事情还在继续进行中间，一直到让日本和中国最终达成和解的条约为止，中国都不会轻易就放弃这一点。我看高市说2026年是中日之间改善的一年，确实有很多的机会，对吧？比如说有亚太经合会议，但是现在根本看不出来。恰恰相反，中国的大棒会一棒接着一棒，那些跟高市出主意的人，那只是把高市投入到了陷阱。高市自己怎么这个陷阱里面爬出来，我现在还没有看出来，因为这个里面还是主要是取决于日本的战略改变。日本的战略如果不改变，没有一个高市，也有一个低市出来。
好，感谢何斌先生的点评以及补充。关于这个话题，我们也先聊到这里。那接下来关注到另一个话题。
About it, but I think the rest of the world, and the caller you just mentioned talked about Mexico. I think Mexico should really be watching as well, because they should be helping us. Mexico has been a corrupt country for decades, and they have basically been turning a blind eye to all the drugs that have been either manufactured there, fentanyl coming in from China, and we have to stop all this. But Mexican and other countries turn a blind eye because they're corrupt, and we know that. So we're taking out these corrupt leaders one by one, and I can only congratulate Trump for doing that. That's what I wanted to say.
All right, Michael, let's go to the line for Democrats, Atlantic Beach, Florida. Sarah, good morning, Sarah.
Hi there. I think it's really naive to think that taking down one person is going to have any impact at all on drugs in the United States. People aren't doing drugs because it's available. We're doing it because we're broken. We have no money. Everything is difficult, and that's there. We have mental health crises. We have health crises, and so I don't understand how America first, instead of focusing on what can we do to get to the root of these problems and make it so that people don't feel the need to do drugs, right? It's just one person is not going to stop the flow of drugs into the United States. It's not going to slow down the overdose deaths at all.
Sarah, we are going to go ahead and end the show here because President Trump has approached the podium. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, it's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have. And you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship they'll be heading to, ultimately, New York. And then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have this constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal. But we've superseded it by a lot. By a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone, and Venezuela people are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the President said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around, and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people, deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us, and deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our chairman, Chairman Raising Cane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets. In early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel so, as the President said, they could be brought to justice. And as the President said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the President to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the President ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49. And there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component is, was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the President said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States, and the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba, Mr. President?
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Mr. President,
you said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela. So who's in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
Mr. President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, they always say boots on the ground. So we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night. at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Can you explain the exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
What's the group you mentioned that would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be, for a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead, you know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be...
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about that.
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And, yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, you know. We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went there. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
Mr. President, you were one of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know, the safe place is all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it. Go ahead, finish.
Where is Maduro going to be in the time being right now? Do you know his exact whereabouts?
Well, eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards. Did that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's why we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
President, can you? How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. Can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and the drugs?
And Russia, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it to them. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that?
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. And they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we would be exactly where Venezuela was in terms. I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military troops to provide?
They're going to be a team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro. And right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn in as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back, yeah.
What's being done to protect Americans in the country, and were any of the detained Americans
Well, right now they're
arrested
very
last night?
protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
Are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, wait, behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, you know, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, you know, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. Suffice it to say, you know, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, you know, they were, you know, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, they basically, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba. They tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Cutting off the oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned, it's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's a pre-existing.
Mr. President.
The answer is yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Is the U.S. aware of the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President.
Do you have any hesitations about Machado?
Mr. President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the
Mr. President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years? You know,
well, you know, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial. So it's not going to cost us anything. We will. Well, we want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries, and we also have to have energy. Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look. It was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year, is going to be a great thing, and the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Mr. President,
U.S. military.
Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well,
U.S.
I don't want to get into the
Venezuela?
conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
You referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that country?
No, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless
President.
it's a bad question, in which case I'll go one word. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin? Well,
okay.
That's always nice to talk about Putin.
You had a phone call with him on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't.
And
we
then,
never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this intelligence.
I'm not thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people. I thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace. So I only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not. And they both have done some pretty bad things. And look, that's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lives. Did you see where last month, 30,000, it was 27,000 the month before. 30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed this last month. 30,000. I want to stop that. You know, I got NATO to pay 5% instead of the 2% that they weren't paying. They weren't paying 2, now they pay 5. And we send them a lot of munitions. We send them a lot of things, missiles and various other things, a lot. And they pay. The United States is not losing money. We're probably making money on that. It's the last thing I care about. I just want to stop all those people. We're losing 25,000, 30,000 human beings that come from 2 places that are very far away. But if I can stop, because it's something I've been pretty good at doing, deals, I guess. It's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people are being killed in Kiev, people are being killed in other cities throughout, you know, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but that's a war that should have never happened. If I were president, it would have never happened. Putin says it. Everybody says it. If I were president, that would have never happened. But I inherited that war. That was Joe Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. I came into the situation, and it's a mess. And I will say this. I watched an operation last night that was so precise, that was so brilliant. I mean, it was incredible. If we had our people, like this general, and our people involved, that war would not have gone on very long, that I can tell you. That war, to use an old term, that war has become a bloodbath, and we want it to get stopped. Thank you very much.